Welcome back, everyone. Let's jump right in. Today, we're unpacking a really brilliant mythic fable, one that's formatted as a thrilling, dramatic script. We're looking at a massive clash. On one side, you have a static ruler who literally wants to freeze time. On the other, a radical visionary championing the chaotic, vibrant force of life itself. It's an incredible philosophical story. We're going to explore the intimate inner transformation of a high priest and then zoom out to a high-stakes, epic debate at the high court. To kick things off, let's look at Goethe's absolutely perfect question, which really sets the philosophical stage for the whole thing. Where do I grasp you, infinite nature? It's such a profound question, right? It's all about the collision between absolute control and dynamic evolution. I mean, how do we hold on to something that is just constantly changing? Do we try to trap it in a cage, or do we move along with it? Keep that exact tension in mind as we watch this narrative unfold. Act 1, The Return to Stasis, the Great Hall of the Kingdom without a name. So, let's set the scene in the Great Hall. It's changed since we last saw it, prepared by people who genuinely believe preparation is protection. The candles are more numerous, tapestries have been rehung, and crucially, the king has elevated his throne by 2 additional steps since the first night. He's clearly been thinking about height. He's taking shelter in his rigid Aster architecture, with his inner circle standing much closer to him now. Is it solidarity or shelter? Probably both. Meanwhile, the court watches the door. They've been watching it for some time, caught in this unbearable state of not knowing. They don't know if the disruption is coming, which is honestly a psychological condition almost worse than the disruption itself. They are suffocating in their own anticipation. And then it happens. Not a knock, not an entrance, just a sound like a jagged blade slicing through silk, echoing from the shadows. The court straightens. The king doesn't move. The gargoyle's bells ring once in the register of arrival. The Jester has entered. See, the wager was already complete. He didn't even plan to return. But he knows the court has spent his absence refining its arguments, trying to secure their foundation. He arrives and completely shatters the kingdom's psychic vacuum without speaking a single word. The pure tension here is just off the charts. Moving right along to Act 2, the priest's inner transformation, the meeting place of spirit and flesh. Okay, let's track the priest's descent here. For 40 years, this man existed in a kingdom of rationalist supremacy, basically a psychic vacuum of steel. He acted as a broken bridge, paralyzed by fear. He literally treated his own physical body as a muddy river to be avoided, Like his flesh was just some fallen distance he had to overcome to reach a purely spiritual heaven. This caused this strange malaise, this whispering chaos of the ugliest man in his soul, leaving him entirely isolated. Into this absolute cold isolation steps the uncanny Jester. But listen, he doesn't come in with jokes. He enters with the alchemical fire of the crucible. He delivers this devastating line. The divine chose the flesh to know what cold feels like. Wow. That single sentence completely shatters the priest's Apollonian gaskets, those airtight hyperlogical frameworks he used to just seal away the messy, chaotic reality of human emotion. Gone. So the crucial takeaway here is the profound realization that hits the priest. He suddenly sees that a body made cold by rigid arrangement isn't holy. It's just a sanctuary locked shut against the holy. The text paints this vivid picture of wax dripping like slow white blood as he realizes his body is actually the creator of his spirit, its own hand and foot. The flesh isn't a muddy river at all. It's the exact meeting place where the human and the holy intersect. The incarnate meeting finally begins. And in this beautiful reversal, the priest looks at the Jester and strips away that grotesque porcelain mask. He reframes him entirely. He realizes the Jester is not some villain or a monster or even a necessary evil. He's simply an instrument, a tool that breaks the illusion of static control to make the truth visible again to those who've been blinded by it. It's a real game changer. The priest blows out his candle and utters a holy yea to the entirety of his nature. The unyielding gargoyle softens. Those heavy, grim lines of cold stone in the priest's world suddenly flow like wild lilies blooming in an abyss. He literally turns from cold stone into vibrant human connection. The great noon of revelation has finally arrived. Act 3, Debate at the High Court. The sovereign versus the radical visionary. Let's break down this comparison to really see these opposing worldviews clash. On one side, we have the king representing the logic of stasis. He relies on master architecture, he locks the spirit in bronze and stone,
and he basically offers his people this pious cow of contentment. On the flip side, the Jester and the Bard represent Githian alchemy. This is all about transformation and dynamic growth. They champion the spirit of becoming, wield a thousand-voiced harp, embrace the messy contradictions of life, and bring fire straight from the gaping abyss. It is perfect static control squaring off against constant, vibrant movement.
Voicing the king, we hear this cold monotone of absolute control. He proudly claims to have solved the riddles of the oldest eons, saying, "I've locked the spirit realm in bronze and stones, and given the soul a clean, eternal sleep. Why do you bring this strange malaise to me?" He genuinely believes that having perfectly straight walls and subjects who never weep somehow equals a perfect, solved universe.
But the Jester grinds back with so much energetic defiance. He laughs, sounding almost like glass grinding on silk, and reveals that a world without striving is just an ornate cage, mocking the sublime spirit. "O certain king, your symmetry is a tomb," he declares. The king has polished all the dusty crowns of the old muses, sure, but he's completely forgotten the very striving that creates the bloom in the first place. Then the Jester strikes the floor with his mirror shard arrow, summoning a phantom guest, the Bard. And the Bard arrives as the voice of the becoming century, bringing this massive, fuller litany of human existence. He says, "I strike the harp that Shakespeare and Homer have worn. Here, all the contradictions of life are newly wed, the joy and the laments, the living and the dead." The king is desperate to maintain his master architecture. He screams against this intrusion of foreign sounds into his perfectly regulated air. "Silence that noise. My laws are carved in stone. I will not have all joy and laments inside my vault." To the sovereign of stasis, any joy or lament is a major threat. To him, chaos isn't life. It's simply a hidden fault in his blueprint. And right here, the Jester delivers the absolute philosophical checkmate. He approaches the throne and just says, "You cannot play a single note upon a string that does not move." Boom. Brilliant, right? The Jester proves that the king's static control is exactly the thing the spirit of becoming is going to dismantle. A younger faith is here, and the thousand-voiced harp has been struck by a bold hand instead. Act 4. The Spirit of Becoming. The gasket that was always going to fall. So the Bard strikes a final chord, synthesizing all the lust and laments of the world. And the king's Apollonian gaskets just completely shatter. The disappearing ink of his rigid laws begins to run. But notice this vital detail because it's absolutely crucial. Rather than the vibrant spirit entering and just occupying the king's cage, the force of life simply dissolves the cold stone architecture completely back into the spirit realm. The structure doesn't just break, it literally melts away. In the quiet aftermath, the Jester whispers his final victory to the defeated king. "The dreamer has refused to sleep in your bed of regulated air. The great noon is over. The great evening is everywhere. Infinite nature simply refuses to be boxed in." We'll wrap up this explainer with a provocative question for you to ponder. Looking at this incredible tale of the priest who found the holy in his own flesh and the king whose stone walls melted before the song of life, where do you sit? Will you lock your spirit in the master architecture of stasis, trying to perfectly control your world? Or are you going to strike the thousand-voiced harp of becoming and embrace the chaotic, beautiful evolution of life? Something to think about. Thank you so much for exploring this with us today.